And now, Rate That Album, Season 3, with Paul Muad'Dib and Joe Fremming. Two guys who know stuff.
Hi, and welcome back to Rate That Album. Back and forth album review between myself, Joseph Fremming, and my good friend, Paul Muad'Dib. Paul, how are you doing?
Better than Chris Rock. No, I'm good. I'm good, buddy. The world's on fire, and all we could talk about is the Oscars. That's how it is.
Yeah, it's, violence is always the answer to jokes you don't like, Paul.
Absolutely.
We grew up with the old axiom that sticks and stones may break my bones, but words are even worse.
Words are even worse. So I want to talk. I know we're gonna get to the album. I gotta talk about this because this is just so insane to me.
Paul, did you not see that It's Always Sunny clip I posted saying my thoughts on this?
The thing about shut up about it. Yeah, no, I know.
Charlie's just like, oh my god, I don't care to shut up.
Just shut up. No, I just because it came out. The reason why is I read today, as we're recording this, as I was out driving because I work, and I'm listening to the album, and I get like news things that pop up because I care about the news, and I've been really keeping a close eye on what the hell's going on over in Ukraine. But of course,
there's something going on in Ukraine.
Yeah. But of course, since the Oscars,
my news sources, Newsmax and OAN, they haven't mentioned Ukraine once, Paul.
Oh well, you know what? Those are some amazing news sources that they haven't. Those are the ones you want to listen to.
Yeah, that's where you get the truth, Paul.
That is where you get the truth. So no, I will. I just want to say because it came out today that Will Smith was asked after what went down, was asked to leave. Like, was told by, apparently now the Oscars are coming out and saying, no, he was told to leave and he refused. And I'm going, where the fuck was security then? Like, why did you let him even go up and fucking speak? Like, what? Like, Joe, if you and I were somewhere, we went to a fucking open mic comedy night, and we fucking slapped the comedian. Do you think we'd be able to go back to our chairs and tell security, no, we're not leaving?
We wouldn't even. I think that when it happened on Sunday, is in my field there is an award ceremony where you can actually win awards. It's a Minnesota Newspaper Association award.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's not really that cool, but. No, but I was just thinking, like, if I was at that event in Minneapolis and I walked up to the person who was presenting and slapped him in the face, not only would I have been 86th, I would have been fucking fired.
Right.
Like, and I know, Smith can't be fired from, but I don't know how this is going to do with his career. It might be harder to get work with this. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how people. It's kind of split how they see it, but a lot of people are seeing it. But like, I wouldn't want to work with somebody who would slap a person over a joke.
No, and I guess it came out too. This is the interesting thing, that where that joke felt like it was improv. Apparently, it wasn't. Like, this joke was there during the rehearsals, and the Smiths didn't have a problem with it. And then it was live, and then they had a problem with it. So, like, I don't understand what went on. Like, I do feel like this is something where we're seeing someone, like, in real time, like, unravel, and I just hope the guy gets help. Like, Will Smith just needs help at this point.
Yeah, it's weird. We were kind of bouncing back and forth on Facebook about it, and I think, I wasn't joking. I think, like, it's been like 10 years of the jokes that she's savagely been cucking him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether it was because they came out like maybe they have an open relationship. She's been with other men. It's just like it. I don't know. It felt like it also like him trying to look like a man in front of the world, which is like even stranger because it's like he's the Fresh Prince.
Yes,
it's never gonna come off. Like people were like defending him, saying like, "Well, Philly came out that night," and I was like, "Well, he hasn't been in Philly for like 35 years, so I don't think that is a valid excuse."
No, it's not a valid excuse. And the thing is, and that's what a lot of people like the New York Post was posting this thing that's saying Will Smith was already on edge after months of mayor's jokes, right? And
once it's been years.
Well, and this is the thing, right? So we know it's been years, but the thing that I think everyone's talking about when it comes to that is the Jada does a podcast, much like we do, except hers probably has more listeners.
Yeah, come on, Paul. Come on. A celebrity having a bigger audience than us.
Yeah.
That's
obviously. So no, I mean, come on, that's not. But apparently there was this one with this guy, August Alsina, and I don't know who this is. I didn't bother looking. I don't know who this person is. I guess they're a singer. I've never heard them, which is crazy considering that we have a music podcast and I've never heard of this person. But apparently they had a thing, and that the Smiths have this open marriage, but that Will Smith didn't know about this happening until she talked about it on the podcast. And Will Smith did not react well.
But he didn't know they were in a open relationship.
So, well, I mean, that's a
bad sign of your marriage.
Well,
like,
again,
like openly banging people, and you're like,
well, and again,
I'm going to be monogamous. And
I want to clarify, people aren't sure. I mean, some people are in that camp where, he didn't know about the open arrangement. Where I tend to agree with the other side, which is, no, he probably knew. I mean, I think most celebrities are in an open marriage. I just think that's how it works. I mean, you're gone all the time. You're working with all these other co-stars. You know, you're going to go out. You're going to fuck other people. You got to know that. You got to know that. Yeah. So
it's a real wonder why almost all these marriages never last.
Right. I mean, and
there's people who can do the poly thing, but like that's when both people going in.
Okay,
on the same agreement, where I think with the Hollywood thing, it's not always the case.
It's not always the case. Now, I do want to point out that this is what they're saying was that the general consensus is that Will Smith knew about it being open. But one of the things, I have poly friends, one of the things about being in an open marriage is, and in the poly, both parties know when they're with someone else, right? Like, hey, yep. I am sleeping with this person, or hey, I have a non-romantic relationship with this person that I'm spending time with. We have an emotional relationship, right? Yeah. You have these conversations.
Somebody who was poly, and she told me that like communication was like the number.
It's the number one thing. You
have to be completely open for it to work.
Yes, and so what the general consensus is that yes, Will Smith agreed to the open marriage, but she never told him about the relationship with this August guy until on the podcast, and that's where Will Smith lost his shit. Was like, well, wait a minute, how come I'm just finding out about this now, and I'm your husband? Where's the communication? So that's kind of the thing, you know. And I will say, I mean, Dolly Parton, she's a fucking national treasure. She's been married to the same guy for how many years? And they both said, hey, we're in an open relationship. We're in a poly relationship. We have been since the fucking 70s. Yeah. You know,
but that's what both parties are on the same page with how they communicate it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
We're talking about the Will Smith thing, and as you pointed out, she was kind of keeping something from him.
She was keeping something from him.
Which is seems so toxic. And because, you know, I don't know a whole lot about poly, but it's a lot, from what I understand, it's a lot of honesty and communication. And when you're holding a secret, that can really poison the well. Maybe I don't know. You might know a little bit more about this than I do. I don't know, but it just seems like if you're going to hold secrets, that's when things probably are getting shady.
Yeah, no, I have a lot of poly friends. I'm not coming out here. I'm not poly, but I have a lot of friends that are, and that's I've asked them about it. I'm like, hey, can I can I ask you a little bit about this, because I'll be honest with you, like I'm not secure enough. Like I'll be first one to admit I am not secure enough to have a poly relationship. I'm just not. I have too many hang-ups about myself.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I could never. It's just not for me. But God bless if it works for all these other people. That's awesome. I'm glad they found happiness. That's great to me. It just wouldn't work for me. That's just how I am.
Yes, completely agree with you. And so they say, hey, whether it's uncomfortable or not, you have those conversations. And the whole idea is that someone is allowed to say, like, no, I don't want you to be with that person, or, let's have a conversation about this, or, I'm not comfortable. You have to have these conversations. And again, I couldn't imagine having that conversation with one person, let alone 2 or 3 or 4. You know what I mean? Where you have to have all these people on board with the fact of it being open, and this thing. And I think that's why I have so many poly friends, is because there's a lot of, a lot of them were friends with each other and kind of doing the poly thing with each other. So I think that's why I have them why I have so many of them as friends. But yeah, no, that is completely key, is like, you got to have this thing. So again, I think what we saw was, it was toxic masculinity. I don't care what anyone says, whether you agree with it or not.
No, it was. It's the idea you have, it was a lame joke, but like that was overblown, and it was like, he went to do his acceptance speech, and he's talking about protecting his family. Like that was not protecting.
No,
nobody was physically assaulting Jada. I mean, a joke is a joke. You gotta have thicker skin, especially when you're in
Hollywood,
that business.
Yeah. And the thing is,
Chris Rock should never have to apologize for what he said, because the only thing he needs to apologize for is making a G.I. Jane reference in 2022.
Completely agree. That
was the most egregious part of that whole night for me. That was the slap to my face, Paul.
Well, I mean, there's people alive that have never even heard of they weren't alive when the first G.I. Jane came out. So it was a stupid joke.
25 years old.
It's I think it's older than that, but yeah, I think it
was
it 95, 94?
And said, "I'll see you again in 25 years," and then tapped its nose like Laura Palmer.
Yeah, right. Okay, it was 97, so it was a little sooner than I thought. But still, point is that there's people that watched the Oscars that weren't alive when that movie was made, or they were like 2, like they never saw it. It wasn't a big. And the thing is, G.I. Jane wasn't that big of a film either.
Well, I mean, it touched on something that's kind of newish with women in the military, and that I had never seen it, so I can't vouch for like how authentic it is. But I remember that kind of being like the big thing about it. That was the buzz.
No, absolutely. But what I mean is, it wasn't it box office wise, things like that. It didn't do very well, right?
No.
I mean, it's sitting at Rotten Tomatoes at 50%, so it wasn't exactly a well received film. Is kind of my thing, and it was supposed to be like this, like Demi Moore's return to film, and it just didn't happen. Like, yeah,
it would come later for her with Charlie's Angels.
Yes,
like 3 years later, everybody's like, I can't believe a 40-year-old woman looks hot. And it's like, you can't.
You can't.
Like, the late 90s, early 2000s was a very strange time, people.
It was very weird. Yeah, absolutely, 100% weird. So, yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, what we saw was basically in real time a real breakdown. I think it's more indicative of what's going on with the Smith family than it was on anything else, right? And you hear that a lot of times. It's people projecting, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly what we saw, was Will Smith projecting his anger and his things. And I gotta say, you know, I hear people talking about, oh, well, he made an ableist joke. Okay. I understand alopecia is a condition. But what you need to understand is that it's not one that's not always permanent. Most women will experience it. It's like an autoimmune condition. It's a stress condition. They will experience it at least once in their lifetime. But it is not something that is permanent. And yeah.
Let's get as much. This is the, you know, a lot of people with the which is the far left. I mean, for everything they get outraged by, especially with a joke like about alopecia of all fucking things, you know.
Yep.
It's like, also remember Ted Cruz just asked Supreme Court nominee about if babies are born racist.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel this clown show is going on the far left and right is really just dragging me, man. Like
I'm with you, buddy. I
feel like I'm in a. I don't even know what my I don't even know what's going on in the world anymore. Everybody's lost their fucking mind. Like Will Smith was wrong to go to violence.
And again, I never thought I'd live in a reality where at some point I'd agree with Mitt Romney on anything.
And Liz Cheney.
Yeah. What the hell? What universe did I fall into?
Or the darkest timeline.
It's the darkest timeline. And speaking of the darkest timeline, let's talk about the Black Lips, because as we're getting into this thing, Joe, isn't there some controversy with the Black Lips?
Yeah, I was going to get to that at the end, but well, if you want to get it out at the beginning.
Yeah, let's get it out of the way.
Yeah, so in the 2020, when this album came out, the LA Times did a big expose on some really gross sexual assault going on with a label called Burger Records.
Mm-hmm.
Burger Records was it was a California label that I actually really enjoyed. They put out a lot of music that I really thought was great, because I really especially you hear it on this album, that weird psychedelic punk, weird, very weird garage rocky kind of stuff. It's a lot of fun. But unfortunately, what was going on in the label was a lot of inappropriate sexual assaults at times, from what I read. An atmosphere of gross behavior, which eventually shuttered it. Where the Black Lips falls into that is they had Burger Records was putting out some of their material on tapes, so they're kind of adjacent. But the lead singer was called out in this article for sending sexually inappropriate texts to a 17-year-old girl. And then the girl had consensual sexual relationship with the guy when she turned 18. He was 29 at the time, so it's the text part is creepy, the sex part is legal.
Yep.
I'm not an ambassador on the whole Me Too thing. I have thoughts on it, but I really don't want to get into it. But I think the texts were the gross part. Yeah, that's just disturbing. Feels groomy-ish.
Yep.
You know, like what Manson did with Evan Rachel Wood.
Yes. Yeah.
I didn't go to the Evan Rachel Wood levels of Marilyn Manson. Like, we could do a podcast on that Rolling Stone article on Manson.
Oh God, we should.
Did you read that about his soundproof room?
Oh God, so gross.
He'd lock his girlfriends in there so nobody on the outside could hear him scream.
Yeah, and he'd do terrible things. Yeah, fucking gross, dude. Yeah.
So the Black Lips kind of got derailed by that. This is one of those with this podcast, because I forgot that even happened when I suggested this. But this is one of those ones where I have to divorce the artist from the art, because there's other people in this band.
Yep.
So I came across that. I was like, that's creepy.
I'm I'm going to weigh in a little bit on my thoughts on this. I'm with you on the part that I think the text part is creepy. I'm a big proponent of the whole fact that when you turn 18, you're an adult. Like, I don't like the fact that drinking ages are 21. I don't like the fact that smoking ages have been raised to 21. I really believe that the minute you can go and die for your country, that you've earned, like, now you can do shit.
Oh, so everybody hold on to your hats. Paul's going in his libertarian podcast. What's with the deal with taxes anyway?
What's the deal with taxes anyways? Fuck, what do they do? What do they do for anybody? Like, I've never been on food stamps.
Theft, like, we didn't agree to it. I didn't sign a contract.
God, those people. No, so yeah, I'm with you on that. Like, yes, the texts are groomy, and you can make the case and you can make the argument. Well, she was groomed, so when she turned 18, she went and did this. Again, at that point, there's not much you can do from a legal standpoint because it is legal. It's not like, and then we could get into the album. It's not like when Ted Nugent paid a couple's this girl's parents $10,000 so he could have guardianship over her for a weekend, so he could do whatever he wanted to her.
Yeah, it's not on the level of Jimmy Page having a 15-year-old girl at the Hyatt House in L.A. whenever Led Zeppelin would play in the 70s.
Yep, it's not on the level of
Lou Reed.
It's not on the level of Jerry Lee Lewis, and I hear people's arguments on
the level of David Bowie. Like, this is admitted, a lot of our favorite artists were very creepy men.
Yes, and and I hear a lot of things. People going, well, you can't do these whataboutism. It's wrong. It's wrong. You're right. The texts were wrong. You're right. They got out there, but. Now she's 18.
Yeah, the sex part, that was consensual.
Like, you can't do much about that. Can you go after the guy for the text? Absolutely.
Yeah,
can you hold him accountable? And they did. So, all right, Joe, let's talk country now that we got that out of the way. Yeah. So I just wanted to bring that up because I think that was important to do it before.
Yeah. I mean, it did kind of derail the Black Lips. Like, I haven't seen them do anything since. But, yeah.
I have a theory on that, and you'll
fuck around, you find out. I guess
That's
like
exactly
especially she had the receipts, she had the texts from when she was 17. It's gross.
It's gross.
Dudes, don't do that. do not
do
advance
that
on minor women.
No,
it's gross. It's like the girls we knew in high school would be dating college guys,
and they'd brag about again, it was a different time for us, right? And they'd brag about it. They'd be like, yeah, I'm going out with this
time, but it was creepy then too.
Well, and it was like there was this particular girl. I'm not going to name her because it's not fair, but I remember her bragging about all, like, going to the party with her 24-year-old college boyfriend, and she's 16.
Yeah,
and the fucking gross sexual shit they would do, and that she would be banging his buddies, and they'd all get in on it with her, and I'm going, wow, this is not okay. Yeah, absolutely fucking gross. All right. Anyways, Joe.
And this old middle finger is grown fat and tired from flicking the bird.
All right. Well, speaking of gross, let's get to Hooker John, shall we?
Let's just say okay. So I'll give a little bit of.
Yes, please.
So we're doing a very aptly titled album for the past 2 years. The Black Lips sing "In a World That's Falling Apart." This album came out in January 2020.
So prophetic.
Yeah, very prophetic. Considering, what was it, just like a month and a half later, the world shut down.
The world shut down. Yeah, it was, say, about 6 weeks later.
Yeah. The Black Lips is a band that I've enjoyed off and on. They can be hit and miss since my days when I worked at Electric Fetus. They're a very strange psychedelic punk garage rock act with very strange lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
Very inspired early on. They're from Atlanta, Georgia. Their stage shows were very inspired, especially their earlier stage shows were inspired by Gigi Allen. If you don't know who G.G. Allen is, look up some videos.
Yep. G.G. Allen, absolutely. Everybody should know.
Yeah, look up some videos of G.G. Allen. Don't worry about the the content warnings. That's just hullabaloo for the woke crowd because they can't handle a little danger on stage.
After that, look up some lore.
Yeah. I think G.G. Allen was a little bit worse than Gore. I mean, he would shit in his hand and throw it in the audience. I mean,
that's true. Yes.
But they kind of did the stage theatrics like that, like vomiting on stage and doing weird stuff. But they started kind of refining as a band as the 2000s went on. I own 2 of their albums on vinyl. So when this came out, the world shut down. I completely forgot about it. And then I kind of remember when we did the Ween album, the Golden Country Hits.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, yeah, the Black Lips did a country album. And I was intrigued to kind of go back and listen to it, and that's what we chose this week. And so, Paul, let's get kind of your general, before we go song by song. What was your impression of singing a world that's falling apart?
So this again, it definitely felt very Weenish to me, right? Because just like Ween, there's songs here where they completely get off the rails. They go away from the country for a little bit, right?
Yeah,
it's not a real.
The country lyrics are like pod era lyrics.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's really funny we were doing this right after the Dead Milkmen because it felt to me like, okay, I can hear Dead Milkman influence on this. Like there is
especially the use of the R word.
Yes.
Yeah, like this was the band that just they're like liberal little punks, but they're the liberal wing that just doesn't give a shit about political correctness.
Correct. Yes, which again falls into the Dead Milkmen. So I think again this is really interesting. I will admit that after listening to the album several times, I went and actually listened to their 2 previous albums. Because I was very curious to hear, well, what do they sound like when it's not full country? But yeah, I mean, I shouldn't even say full country when they're not doing, country. Yeah.
Which is funny because they have a distinct sound.
They do. They really do.
So when they did the country album, it's like immediately it sounds like Black Lips.
Yes.
Which a lot of bands can't really pull off. There's bands that can have a sound, but when they stray, a lot of times it starts sounding different and it's not distinctly theirs. Mm-hmm. This is one of those bands they could put out a jazz album and it distinctly sound like the Black Lips.
Yes. I would compare them in that way with Ween as well. No matter what Ween does,
no matter what Ween does, it sounds like Ween.
Yes, and that's not a bad thing. That's actually a good thing in my mind.
I love it. I love that bands can do that shit. Like This seems to be like the one bands that are more experimental.
Yes, I appreciate.
Floyd kind of could do that when they in their early days too.
In their early days, yeah, absolutely, because they do a lot of because they didn't know where the fuck they were. They're
Have a Cigar doesn't sound like anything from Dark Side of the Moon, No,
Animals sounds completely different than a lot of shit they did.
Yeah. The final cut.
The final cut. Well, let's be fair. The final cut was really a Roger Waters solo.
We'll get into the final. I'll be picking the final cut at some point. Just there's the counter to Gilbert's momentary lapse.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair one to do because I think we could
a solo album is momentary lapse.
Yeah, and I also think it's fair because I do want to bring up some, just like we did Peter Gabriel Genesis. I do want to bring up some. Phil Collins Genesis, right? Because it's it really is 2 different bands. So, yes, that's my impressions with it, Joe.
All right. So let's start with the opening track, which I actually really enjoy. Hooker John with a lyric. This is you're like a wine-soaked varicose genitalia, Paul.
Yes, or the one that really got me, because at first I'm listening to this song and I'm like, okay, and it sounds very innocuous, right? It's just like he thinks I'm a hooker, she thinks that I'm a John. I'm like, okay, cute lyrics, and then I pull up the lyrics, and then I'm like, the fuck am I listening to?
Driving all night and day just to find Route 66. All I found was a couple teenage boys trying to sell their dicks.
We can dock the force in so we can get a real viscous mix. Oh my
My
god.
son turns 7. I'm going to give him LSD to see what he says.
Yes. Then toss him to his mama and then suck on some breast. Like, holy shit.
This is... So, like, for me, this is like Ween meets John Waters.
Yes.
It's very John Watery in the lyrics. Like, this feels like Pink Flamingos to me, set to music.
Dude, you're watching reruns of Real Fortune when the apocalypse comes. Your brain will be expanding when God Kingdom comes. You're like a R-word Isaac Newton in Johnny Appleseed's mind. Come on, man. Yeah, absolutely.
It slaps, though.
It does. It does. It absolutely slaps. It's a great song. I mean, it's
like,
fucked up.
So, like, I'm driving around, like, as soon as, like, I leave my apartment, I roll my windows down because it's nice, and I'm playing this, and I'm getting some looks, Paul.
Yeah, it was it was kind of like when I was running around playing fucking Dead Milkman. Yeah, all right.
This one's a little more like the chorus is, "Hooker, you think that I'm a John?"
Yeah. Hooker, you think that I'm a John? He thinks that I'm a hooker. I mean, come on.
Oh god, yeah.
So brilliant.
Let's go to Chainsaw, which it sounds like more of a traditional country song.
This was more okay. So yep, and I gotta be on it. I gotta be honest. Didn't really care for this one a whole lot.
No, I didn't either. But it has like the pedal steel and everything.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it definitely comes off as a country song. Like, I would give them like this is totally country lyrics. There's not a lot going on. Like, again, it's kind of schizophrenic because I expected more. Like, going in this, I'm like, all right, let's see what other fucked up shit we got going on here. And then it's like, wait a minute, no, all right.
It's weird because they'll go from joke to like maybe like an actual country song, and I think like with this song in particular, they seem more interested in making a Black Lips country song with musically, but they really didn't give a shit about the lyrics.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, I think the mindset was we're just going to do a generic country lyrics on this.
Yeah.
And then you get Rumbler.
right, Rumbler. Right.
I love this song.
Oh god, dude, this song.
I love this song.
This is a great driving song, Paul.
Yeah, it is, and it's telling a story. I love the fact that it's telling a story.
Yeah.
You know,
the pot smoking hippies and draft dodgers to boot. Like, it's also like getting into like you know, the '60s country.
Oh yeah,
or like it, you know, like taking the piss out of the hippies, which, you know, even though like the hippies were right, I still love some of that Merle Haggard shit.
Oh yeah. Dude, I mean, I'm sorry, but you know, Billy Jack was a documentary. Mama called him Bobby, but Rumbler was his name. I mean, I love it. You know, he crashes 16 trucks. Basically, he loses his job and joins G.I. Joe. It's so funny. This song is just awesome. Yeah, I love that one.
Is this one with the eunuch G.I. Joe?
Was it the eunuch? Let me pull up the lyrics.
There was one with a eunuch G.I. Joe reference that I was just...
No, it wasn't eunuch. Well, at least the lyrics I had said running with a unit called G.I. Joe.
Oh, eunuch called G.I. I think eunuch would have been a funnier line. But...
Yeah, no, the lyrics I had, at least it showed, was running with a unit called G.I. Joe. But maybe it is eunuch, and we're all hearing it wrong.
All right, let's hop to Holding Me, Holding You, Paul. What'd you think of this one?
Another one. It's fine. You there?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Another country one. Didn't really do much for me, honestly. Like, lyrically, I felt it was, whatever it was. It was fine. It was fine.
It felt again like they're more. It seemed like there are some songs that are more interested in the music elements than the actual song itself. Mm-hmm. And then there's the other ones where they're really into the lyrics.
Yes, so like Gentlemen.
Gentlemen, I love this song, Paul.
It's another great song.
It's another great song. It's from a persona. It's from a point of a character point of view, which I love, and it's like this fat old kind of piece of shit.
Yep. Yep.
My mouth has grown cankerous from spitting dirty words. Like, I love that line, man. That's a good line.
I feel like a strung out snuffleupagus on the south side wearing Vietnamese cowboy clothes. I mean, come on. The imagery is amazing. Yeah.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, the imagery.
She wants a gentleman, nothing more than a gentle friend. So this is like, it plays into like the classic country, but it's just like the lyrics are, and the vocal delivery to me, I love too. It just seems like a really fat, angry old man. Like,
yeah, absolutely. And again, this is another one of those songs that really reminded me of the Dead Milkmen as well, because I'm like,
it's getting hard fly through my teeth because they're rotted out and they're all not there.
Yeah, so good.
All right.
So next we're gonna do Get It On Time. Now, Joe, I have to imagine that you hated this song.
I actually liked it.
Really? Because when I heard it, I went, "Oh, that is Bob Dylan."
Yeah. No, this is like if Bob Dylan did a good song.
Yeah, this is absolutely they were. This is no doubt about it. Wearing Dylan on their sleeve. This is a Bob Dylan song, and they're singing it like Bob Dylan.
Yeah, it's more in the vein of the Dewey Cox Bob Dylan song, which is, I love that one too. Walk Hard's a classic, so
it is a classic.
Yeah, I like that one. Surprisingly enough, I liked it.
Interesting. I totally had to pick. I'm like, oh, this is a song that Joe's not going to like because it's Bob Dylan. Then we get Angelo or Angola Rodeo, which is not a country song.
No.
Which is weird.
Is this the one with the saxophone?
I think so. I
loved it. I loved the sax. It felt like the sax coming in kind of felt like an old Young Americans era Bowie. Mm-hmm. You know? So yeah, I really liked it.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, again, it's so funny because this is not a country song, and yet, old Burl Cain's been known to put on a show. Gonna take my chance at the Angola Rodeo. Yeah.
It's been all around cowboy roping like Cadillac Jack.
Yeah, riding a Mustang around the ring, no saddle. It's called bareback. Like, Jesus Christ, these guys. Yeah,
it's wild, man.
It's a crazy album. It really, really is.
Yeah. So we got Georgia next.
Yep, Georgia next.
Not my favorite, but I enjoyed it still.
Yeah, I would agree with that one. It felt like, to me, I mean, it's fine. It was a filler song, but it wasn't a bad filler song, right? Yeah.
We've heard worse filler songs.
We've heard way worse filler songs. Then we get Odelia.
I love Odelia.
Yeah, Odelia is another really good song. Like, it seems to me, like at least the pattern I had was about every other song I enjoyed.
Yeah, and it seems like they know how to do like a big chorus too.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Like if you can pull off a good big chorus, like you got me. You got me.
Mm-hmm. Yes, 100%.
Gets my heart racing faster than an automobile.
At the bottom, you're the same as any other tease. All that lies beneath your beauty are some hidden fees. Jesus Christ. Yeah. No, these guys, like I said, they knew what they were doing. Next one was Dishonest Men. I don't remember this one very well.
I don't either.
I think this was pretty generic.
Filler song, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, looking at the lyrics, I mean, I kind of like the lyrics, so I might have to give this one another listen.
Locust, again, all right. Lyrically, didn't do much for me. Musically, I kind of felt it was, whatever. Like, I felt like the last 3 songs kind of for me petered out in a way. But that seems to be, again, a kind of a running theme with a lot of the albums that we do. Like, by the end, it feels like the artists are running out. And then Live Fast, Die Slow, I didn't care for. Like,
I actually like it.
Okay. Fair enough.
Live fast, die slow, and painful in a world that's falling apart. I'll never ever live to tell. Yeah, that was kind of prophetic when
fair enough.
I guess.
Yeah, I mean it is. It's just musically, it didn't really grab me. That's just me. Yeah. So yeah, Joe. I think overall, I mean, I did find myself I will admit, the very first time I listened to it, I was like, oh God, there's so much country here, right? You know, I struggle a little bit with country. Yeah. And then as I, was going through and listening to it the second and third time and focusing on the lyrics, and then actually going back and listening to their two other albums. The ones I went back to was Satan's Graffiti or God's Art and Underneath the Rainbow. I went back and listened to those two, and then went back and listened to Sing in a World That's Falling Apart. And I enjoyed it more on that.
You're a little more familiar with them. I think going into like this album blind, like not knowing who the Black Lips are, would be kind of like a weird experience. Like that didn't happen to me.
Yep.
So I can see maybe with you, you're like, what the fuck did you pick?
Yeah, it was very jarring. I'm not gonna lie, it was very jarring because again, I hadn't heard any of their other stuff, and then there's just this, and I'm like, whoa, what the fuck? So I did go back and listen to. It's kind of like the same thing we did with Mark Lafner. No, that's on
Lanigan.
Yeah. Lanigan, thank you, Mark Lanigan. Where I went, we both were like, hey, we got to check out some of his other stuff, and that was more of a Genesis album. Well, this is after they've been kind of established and they're doing more, like weird things. It's kind of like again picking that country album for Ween isn't a great starting point for Ween.
No, like. Yeah, if you're gonna start with Ween, people go with like Chocolate and Cheese. That's what eased me into the world of Ween.
Chocolate and
cheese. I think that's what eased almost everybody into the world of Ween.
That, and I would also say Mollusk is a great one as well.
That one might be a little rough if you're not familiar.
I suppose. I mean, I guess. I mean, I think the reason why I say I think the Mollusk because the Mollusk had Ocean Man, which was used in the SpongeBob movie. So I think a lot of people did go and like, hey, what is this thing? And they went and listened to the Mollusk, and they're like, whoa, what the fuck is this? But yes, Chocolate and Cheese is probably the definitive starting point.
Yeah, that White Pepper's also a solid starting point.
I love White Pepper. Yeah. I love all of it. I love all of it. Like Quebec. A lot of people didn't like Quebec. I didn't
like Quebec and La Couture. I didn't like anything. Like they kind of just started falling apart for me at that point. But
see, I actually like Quebec. I think there's some good stuff on Quebec, but that's me. I guess that's I mean, I'm glad you introduced me to them. I mean, even though they're problematic, we'll see that.
Well, I mean, we've done probably more problematic artists. We just didn't talk about it. We could, if you want to talk about problematic, look up Lou Reed's relationship with men.
Yes, I mean, and
how he treated his male lovers is
not okay. It's really not okay. It's really not okay. And we don't go back and redo bands. We got to do an album. We got to do a podcast sometime. I think about like, hey, what if we had picked a different album and what that album would have been like? Because I don't want to go back, but listen to the album Berlin by Lou Reed, and you can really tell he wasn't a good guy. I mean, one of the songs is him just admitting that he beat this woman. I mean, it's not okay. I mean, so yes, we have had problematic things. It just so happened that we talked about this one mainly because we talked about, what is the big thing going on right now, which is a problem, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yes, I agree. This is way less problematic than other ones, but it's, and it is. And I did look into it. So it was mid last year. They pulled the single, and there hasn't been anything since. Like I haven't seen anything because I was really looking for it because I was like, okay, because I was actually looking for it. I'm like, man, I want to hear more Black Lips. And then I saw that and I was kind of depressed because I was like, oh man. And there has been like silence from the label, from the band, like nobody, and I think my theory is they're going to wait a year or two and then start releasing stuff again, wait for it to blow over. That's my thought.
I'll listen to it. Like again, I separate the art. It's hard to separate certain artists from the art. This is one of those ones where I maybe it's saying I'm a bad person, but I will because I really like this country album and I like a lot of their older stuff.
Yeah,
but but there's certainly artists where I can't anymore. Marilyn Manson being one of them.
Marilyn Manson, I can't anymore either. Which
that was
I drew a line.
I drew a line. Like that is
yeah. There's a line drawn there. I have a friend of mine, a mutual friend of ours, that had drew the line with Beck because of Scientology. He's like, I can't. Nope. After watching that documentary with what's her name? God, it's escaping right now. It's like I've been on work mode. I didn't get in here.
Leah Remini or whatever.
Thank you. Yes.
That show of hers is really good.
It's really good. And he said to me, he's like, after watching that show, I can't support any Scientologist. So like when this whole thing with Will Smith went down, he was like, this is because of Scientology, right? And I was like, well, I think it's a little bit more.
I don't think Dave Miscavige had anything to do with that.
Yeah, yeah, right. But he's he won't listen to Beck. I had a really interesting conversation today. So part of my job is I go around and I talk to people, right? And it's just what I do. And I was talking with some people and we were talking about movies and whatever, and they brought up Jeepers Creepers, and I felt comfortable enough to bring up to this particular person. I said, "Well, can't really talk about Jeepers Creepers because it's been canceled." and if you don't know what happened there, it's pretty vile. And but they said to me, they're like, "Look, I don't care." They're like, that's not what I go into a movie. I don't give a shit what someone did musically or movie wise. That's not my fucking issue. If I enjoy watching a movie, I'm gonna watch it. It's not like I have to see that particular person all the time, things like that. So I always believe that you draw your own line, right?
Your own line.
Yeah, you draw your own line.
People change for the better too, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, and that's I'm not going to jump. I know a lot of people are like, well, there's a lot of absolutists out there right now, right? They're like, anything that's problematic at all, you can't have. Well, I'm sorry, but let's get out of fantasy land for a minute.
Life doesn't work that way.
Life does not work that way. It's when I will be very, very honest. When we were in high school, I was very black and white on my morals. I was very black and white on this is it. This is you don't do this. You don't do this. You don't do this. Fucking 20 years later, or 22, 23, 24 years later, you learn that you live more in the gray than you do in the white and black.
Yeah. Absolutely. Again, there are acts and artists where I just, when things come to light, it's just like, nope. Kevin Spacey is one of those ones I can't.
Kevin Spacey, nope. I which sucks.
It sucks because he's in two of like my favorite movies. I love the movie Seven, and I love the movie American Beauty.
Those are my two. Yep.
Those are ruined for me now.
Those are ruined for me. Absolutely fucking ruined for me. Yes, I also enjoyed K-Pax. I thought it was lighthearted. I really enjoyed kind of the message of it. Yep. But it's not one of those ones I went back and watched, like I went back and watched Seven, like I went back and watched American Beauty. Yeah. And yes, Kevin Spacey, that's a line I drew. I drew a line with Ted Nugent. I will not have anything. I've thought about doing a Ted Nugent album on this show, and I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it.
To be fair, I never liked his music, so neither do I. It doesn't matter one way or the other to me.
No, I never liked his music either. But it's still, there are people. Ted Nugent is played on rock radio. He is a staple. Like he is known, as this rock guy who had some great hits in the 70s. And there is that. There are, like I said, other people, artists and things like that over time. I just I can't. But with this one, I think blow this one over. Yes, he sent some texts when she was 17. But I draw a line there because I'm not gonna be a hypocrite because God, I went after that one politician. Again, I'm blanking on names tonight. On Twitter, Matt Gaetz. I went after Matt Gaetz every day for like 3 months for being a sexual predator.
He did more than just tweet an underage girl. Like he's being accused of child sex trafficking.
Exactly. Right. So
And
Yes.
Venmoing.
Yeah, and Venmoing, and having actual, yeah,
Come on, man.
using Cash App,
electronic receipts, like
yeah. Yeah, I mean, and funneling and using government funds and taxpayer money for that. Yeah, no, come on. But still, I mean, the girl was 17.
It was wrong.
And
absolutely
it was
wrong. And I'm not beating around the bush, and I'm not defending him.
No.
I want to say I'm not defending or condoning his actions.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I'm going to enjoy this album.
Yes, I agree.
Because I love the song Hooker John.
Hooker John is great, and I love the song Rumbler.
Rumbler and Gentleman.
Yes. So let's get to recommendations. I'll start with mine. And I'm going to say I do, but like I do with a lot of them, with a caveat. I had a hard time getting into it. Like I said, until I went back and listened to a couple of their other albums and a couple of their songs, and then I really started to understand the band as a whole. I do feel that there are people that they jump right into this album as their first Black Lips, that they are going to have struggle with it. Yeah. Now, if you are a Black Lips fan already, perfect. You're going to love this. But yeah, I do think you need some context of what this band is like to understand what's happening on this album.
Yeah, I would. Knowing it makes it a lot more enjoyable. If you're going into the Black Lips, like I would say the first album I would check out to get in would be Good, Bad, Not Evil. That's the one got me. That kind of got their first rumblings, I would say, at least in our circles.
Okay.
Indie rock nerds. So
I love, yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm actually surprised I never heard of them, because in 2007 I was really in the college rock and indie rock. Yeah, no,
it's weird, man. Like they kind of fell in. Like they did an album with. Have you ever heard of King Khan?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did an album with King Khan called The Almighty Defenders.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Which was another. I own that. That's really good. That's really good, garage rock. King Khan also has his problematic issues. We can get into that when we eventually do a King Khan album. It's why are musicians just fucking horrible?
It's not. It's not. No. Here's what it is.
I mean, it seems like all of them they're all terrible people.
Well, it's not just them, right? You got a couple of things going on here. All right. So, I think I think first of all, there's the celebrityism that comes with it, right? I mean, much as Kanye is a fucking disaster right now, right? And he is a disaster.
It's perfectly normal to buy a house across the street from your ex-wife and then do music videos where you're decapitating in claymation form the man she is currently dating.
Yeah, no, that's normal. That's absolutely
everybody's done it. I mean, if I had a nickel for every time I did that.
You'd be a problematic musician millionaire. No, Kanye brought it up in his song "Can't Tell Me Nothing." Okay, and I'm going to quote Kanye on this. Okay, and I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just bringing it up like what it is. So here it is. Let that man get cash. Let that man get past. He don't stop to get gas. If he can move through the rumors, he can drive off of fumes. Because how does he move through a room full of no's? How does he stay faithful in a room full of hoes? Must be the pharaohs. He's in tune with his soul. Okay. And I think what you have here is you have this basic, humans in general are not the greatest. Like there's a lot of people with some really good hearts, but everyone makes mistakes, right? You absolutely do. But then you put them, except for you. You're perfect. You're a god.
I've never, like Joe Bluth, I've never made a mistake.
So you have this in the position where all of a sudden they have money, right? And again, it's not anyone's fault. It's the culture, right? I mean, again, teenage girls were throwing panties on stage for Elvis Presley, for the Beatles. They were doing it for fucking Winger. They were doing it for fucking Bon Jovi.
I'm glad you went from the Beatles to Winger.
You like
that leap, man.
That leap, man, right
there. When I think of John Lennon, I'm like, you know what's just as good as John Lennon? Kip Winger.
Well, I was going to bring up Stryker, but I thought Winger was better. So yeah, I mean, you know, they did it in the 50s, they did it in the 60s, they did it in the 70s, they did it in the 90s, they did it in 2000. And I'm not saying just women too. I mean, guys, everything like that. I mean, Lita Ford. How many fucking 15-year-old guys wanted to fuck Lita Ford? How
many 15-year-old dudes did she fuck? I mean, that's kind of the difference there. You know what
exactly. I mean? Right. So then you get this era of you get this money, you get this fame, and you start living this other life where all of a sudden the rules don't apply to you, right? We saw it with, again, going back to our earlier conversation about Chris Rock, Will Smith. You have a different set of rules when you can pay your way out of shit. So, and this has been, they called it the boys club because generally it was. But we were also, as we just brought up Lita Ford, we brought up, I know Joan Jett. I mean, there's been a lot of problems throughout the years. And, the whole thing is, it's that era. It doesn't matter if it's a guy or a girl, you get in that position. Suddenly you start getting to these decisions that what I do isn't really all that bad because I'm different, right? I'm a celebrity. I'm one of the, Bill Murray said it best. Remember, you get 2 years of being whatever, and then you don't get out of your head by then. You're a fucking asshole.
Yeah. Wasn't that in reference to Chevy Chase?
But the point is that he's like, yeah, once you become famous, give yourself 2 years to fucking get adjusted. You're going to be a fucking prick. But if you don't get your head out of your ass, So
he's been an asshole since. I mean, he went to Harold Ramis's hospital visit and made it all about him right before Ramis died. Like,
yeah, I know.
Even Murray doesn't even.
I know.
He's as much of a prick as Chevy Chase.
And that, you know what? It breaks my heart, but it's true. It's true. I mean, I think Murray's also problematic. But anyways,
yeah. Look, if you want to be crushed by your heroes, people, just look into their personal lives.
Exactly.
All fucking horrible. Although it does seem to me, and I want to kind of bring it up and see what it seems to be a lot, like, especially with like the sexual stuff, it seems a lot mostly men. Like, yes. I don't hear, like when you brought up Lita Ford, and I was like, yeah, well, she wasn't banging 15-year-old kids. Like, that seems to be like the difference is like,
I think also the difference, though, and this is my take on it, is the South Park episode, right? Where if it's a guy doing it, a younger guy doing it with an older girl, it's awesome. Okay, I'm gonna tell you something here. And there was a teacher that we went to high school with that had every year she had a boy, she had a guy, and I knew one of the guys very, very closely that I was friends with. That was her pick for that semester.
Christ, I don't even remember any of our teachers. So.
This is right. So, but that's the thing that occurred. Now, he didn't want to say anything because he was like, yes, this is awesome. Right. So I think that's the other side of it, where it's the culture side of it where, yeah, I mean, it is wrong. It's wrong on both sides. Mm-hmm. But I think younger women now are more encouraged to be vocal about it than there are for, I mean, again, I'll also bring.
It does seem like some more women now are coming into the light of like they're doing some of this shit. Mm-hmm. But it used to be teachers.
Yeah, it's
not like rock stars. It's like people you're entrusting your children with. It's fucking horrible.
And again, I think it's because now the veil has been kind of lifted, and now guys are going, okay, this isn't okay either for me, right? But again, it was always that
happening. But
it was
in our culture, if you said, "Yeah, I'm having sex with this woman, but I feel wrong about it," you're gonna get ridiculed. At least we would have.
Dude, when I was 17, I was dating a 22-year-old woman. She would get me in the bars. She got me. She would take me down. Bravo Burritos was downtown. She'd get me in there and get me drinks.
Paul, you could have gone in there without her and got.
I know.
I got served alcohol at Bravo's downtown.
I'm just saying. I mean,
It wasn't. I don't think it was just the 22-year-old. I think it was the poor management of that restaurant.
Yeah, well, that and Rum Runners, right? But yeah, the point was that
Rum Runners with 18 night.
Yeah.
A bar inviting 18-year-olds to dance.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, I mean, I worked with her, and we would, yes, absolutely. I was 17. She was 22. It's what it was. So yeah. And again, did I say anything to anybody? Fuck no. This is the first time you're learning of it.
Yeah. No, I mean, it happens. I guess. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's the thing. And even now in my mind, like for me, I was 17. She was 22. You could look at it as legal. I made a decision to be there. Now, again, you could sit there and go, well, you're being kind of a hypocrite. Well, in a way, maybe I am. But at the same time, if it was, if what might happen with one of my kids, male or female, and that was the situation, you damn right to be having a serious conversation. Yeah. You know what I mean? So whereas, again, it being the time, if I had told my dad, I know exactly what my dad would have said.
He would have high-fived you.
Yeah, exactly. My dad would have high-fived me and been like, good for you. Yeah. So it was.
Again, it's like different. I think also this day and age, we have to also acknowledge people grew up in different times.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's like, yeah, if your dad would have did that, it's wrong. But he didn't, the era he grew up in was very different than the era we grew up in. And the kids today who are turning 20 grew up in a very different era than we
absolutely did. Absolutely. I see it with my kids.
Like, I mean, so when people are like, it's how people react, like, well, that's just like you're thinking old ways and blah blah blah, and that's not right. It's like that may be true, but that's life is a learning process, and when newer things come about, not everybody's up to speed.
Exactly.
And exactly. But you have to remember, people are trying. I'm not the most woke person ever. And I used to be like one of the most liberal of our crew.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, again, there was a time where I considered myself the most liberal of my crew. And I'm realizing, I mean, I still kind of am. I'm not going to lie there. But as I've started to expand my group, I'm going, holy shit. There are people way over here in places I didn't even know existed. Yeah. Right?
Thank you, Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
When I'm seeing people angry about things, I think it's a learning process, but like a lot of times I'm like, wait, why are you all angry about this? And then I'll look into it, and sometimes I'm like, yeah, that's fucked up. And sometimes I'm like, that's overreacting. Again, it might be just the era I grew up in where certain things were.
And I think that's exactly it. That is why I'm a little bit more, I tend to, when I hear like the younger generation being upset about something, because I'm not the younger man anymore. I'm just not.
We're old men now, Paul.
We're old men now.
Old men.
Old men. No country for old men.
We're grumpy old men.
We're grumpy. Oh, God damn it.
I get to be Walter Matthau.
Fine, I'll be Jack Lemmon. And it's but I tend to go, okay, you know what? I got to look at it from their point of view. So when I go and read this, I'm going to see this, and a lot of times I will say, like maybe 8 out of 10. I will say, yes, I agree with why they're upset. But there are those times where I sit back and I go, I think there's some overreacting here. Like I can see your point. But and I'll bring up alternative points. And sometimes I'll be like, oh yeah, I didn't look at it from that point of view, right?
Yeah. And they might point you in a direction where, oh, I didn't think of it that way. I'm like, exactly. I'm the same way. And there's times where I'm like, oh, fuck off. Like my instant reaction is, oh, fuck off. And
yep.
I think that's also part of just growing old and like, again, newer things, it's not what I know. So like my first reaction seems to be reactionary. I work on it. you know what I mean? Like I work on it. Like
Mm-hmm.
I try to be a better person. But there are times where I'll see something people are upset about. I'm like, oh, fuck off.
Yep. No, and
You
again,
cry babies, and then I'll take a minute, and then I'll look into it, and then see if that, you know, and almost every time it's not justified when I do that.
no, and
There are times though.
there are times.
Yeah.
No, there are times when it's justified. There are. I mean, there are times where it's justified, and you go, you're blowing this out of proportion.
Yeah.
Right. It's just what it is. So yes. As far as your recommendation goes, Joe, I'm sorry. What would you recommend the album?
Yeah, I like it. It's a fun. I mean, if you're a Black Lips fan and you like this, especially if you like this kind of genre of music, and I think there's a lot here you'll enjoy. The lyrics are hilarious.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
Like the ones we brought up to listen to, like those are like, even if you're not, I mean, I would put that, if I was going to do an introductory playlist for the Black Lips, I would do heavily in their, like, you know, stuff before it, but I would definitely put Hooker John on it.
Hooker John on there. I put Rambler on there. I would.
Yeah.
Put
Gentleman on there. It's the slow song, because you have to have a slower song.
Yeah, you do. You
have any to have a mix. You gotta. God, that's another lost art. I get kids these days don't know how to do a mix.
They don't understand. They've never seen the movie High Fidelity. They don't
know. And we had to do tapes. We had to listen to the whole song. We just couldn't throw a playlist.
No. To make a playlist on a tape was an art, and it took time. Like when someone gave you a mix, when someone gave you a mix, like this. I mean, this was a way that, especially in high school, you would tell someone how you liked them, right? You'd give them a fucking mix, and they'd be like, "Oh wow," you know, like, "Oh."
I did it for friends all the time too.
Yep, my buddy, one of our mutual friends, he would every so often he'd be like, "Hey, here you go," and he'd give me he'd give me like volume 1, volume 2, volume 3, and I'd be like, "Man, this is fucking awesome," you know. So yeah, absolutely. No, it just was one of those things you do. But then by that time though, there was CDs and it was easier. I'm talking tape, man.
Yeah,
tape.
High school. There were like our first years in high school was tapes.
Yep. Our first couple of years in high school, CDs really hadn't taken off yet. So you're doing
CDs were there, but the burners weren't.
The burners weren't. That's what I mean. Yeah. And
burners didn't come. I don't think I knew anybody with a CD burner until like '99. So basically, our last year in high school.
No, you know, I did know some. Well, again, I was in the Cisco class, so I worked with a lot of. You know, I was. So I think our sophomore year, a buddy of mine had a job and had a burner. We had I know we had a burner in the because I was in school newspaper. We had a burner in the montage room.
Yeah, they were expensive. They were like $300.
They were not cheap. And again, $300 now is different than $300 then.
Yeah, $300 then would be like $500 today.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't cheap. I mean, you know, you could get an Alpine stereo for cheaper than you could a fucking CD burner. And now I'm really dating myself by bringing up Alpine rocket radio. Hey Joe, when's the last time you had on some Jabot jeans?
Hey Paul, you have any of your Jinkos left?
My Jinkos left? No, but I got a Hypercolor shirt downstairs, bro. With my Umbro shorts.
With your Zubas.
Oh my god. Fucking okay, real quick, Zuba story. I took one of my girlfriends in high school to the Weird Al concert, and there's two guys wearing fucking Zubas in 1998, wearing Zubas with mullets, like right in front of us.
Oh yeah, hell yeah! That's before all that shit was ironic too. So they were sincerely wearing that shit.
They were sincerely wearing it. Yeah, dude. Like that was not ironic. That was legit.
I love it. I am more appreciative of people who are just the fuck who they are than people who are doing it out of irony. Well, I have much more respect for the people who just rocked the mullet and didn't even give two fucks.
I will say, you know, we went to Postal Service had a reunion a couple years back, and so we went to it, and it was nothing but fucking flannels and Pabst Blue Ribbon. Just a sea of flannels and Pabst Blue Ribbon. And I was just fucking hanging my head going, is there no one here who's fucking original and is like listening to this for not ironic reasons. Like, it was just depressing. No, it was just depressing.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Speaking of depressing, what are we listening to next, Paul?
Hold on there, sir. We got to do your plugs. What do you got going on at Showdown?
Oh, we just did the Chips review. God, that's a fucking terrible movie.
It's a horrible movie. I'm so sad you did it.
Yeah, and then coming out hopefully this week or next week, Spider-Man No Way Home.
That's right, Spider-Man No Way Home. Yes. You told us that last episode. Okay, so by the way, real quick, I did end up getting that Trauma subscription.
Yeah,
I got it for the full year. Oh my god, dude, you need it. You're gonna love it. You are absolutely gonna love it.
I got so many.
Well, I'm just gonna tell you, I think it's up there. You'd need it. I mean, I fell asleep.
Is that the Class of Nuke 'Em High on it?
1, 2, 3, and the new ones return to Nuke 'Em High, volumes 1 and 2.
Son of a bitch.
Yep. As Toxic Avenger 1, 2, 3, and 4 has
and the cartoon series.
And the cartoon series and Sergeant Kabuki Man, Terra Firma, Tromeo and Juliet. It's got the classics, man.
I want to remind people that we are from an era where a movie like The Toxic Avenger got his own like Saturday morning cartoon. Have you ever just thought of that sentence I just said, Paul? Because I thought about it when I saw that. I'm like oh my god! Like there was a Toxic Avenger cartoon. Like, you watch that first movie, like. No,
dude, no kid should be watching the first Toxic Avenger movie. Like, even
I
now,
saw it on USA, so I saw the censored version. It was on USA up all night.
See, and I had a thing where I would rent from Premiere Video, and that was kind of my.
My day, we had VHSs.
Yeah, we had VHSs, and they had a cult classic section, and I would just go through it. My mom would not like censor what I was grabbing. She'd be like, whatever. So yeah, I got the uncut Toxic Avenger, and
awesome.
Dude, yeah. So no, needless to say,
bring her on for a podcast.
Should bring her on for a podcast. She was hilarious. She is hilarious.
Make her listen to some album.
I rented. She didn't catch it. We rented Flush Gordon because it was in the fucking cult classic section, and I had a sleepover that night.
Oh God! It's like that weird. There was like that thing too, like video update at the cult classic section too, and there was like this porno Cinderella.
Yes, I know like, exactly what you're talking about.
Because when you're like 13, you're just going to rent a movie that looks like you might have an opportunity to see a boob.
Yep.
I was like, holy crap, what is... like, I shouldn't have not been able to rent this.
Absolutely. No, I know exactly the movie you're talking about, too. So, yes. No, that was...
UHF at the same time.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, I rented it was another one. It was like a Frankenstein, but it was like a softcore Frankenstein movie. And
Hooker?
No, it wasn't Frankenhooker, but that's on Trauma. But no, it was something. It was like somebody's Frankenstein, and like all it is just people fucking. And I was like, holy shit, I'm watching this right now. All right,
you got to remember, before the internet, you had it was the video store. Trying to find some nudity. It's just, it's sad. It was sad. No,
it was a sad time.
I totally recognize how sad this conversation is, but that was life in the 90s.
That was life in the 90s, right? Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, no. I mean, when you think about the premise that is Toxic Avenger, no way should have been a cartoon show in the fucking Saturday morning lineup.
But it was. I remember it was a really good cartoon.
It was a great cartoon. I'm just, again, surprised it got past the censors. Like, anyone agreed with it. Because, again, you watch that first Toxic Avenger movie and you go, I mean, holy shit. Like, just the origin of the Toxic Avenger alone is like...
It's a hard R movie.
It's a hard R. Like, a kid gets run over and people get off on it. It's a hard R movie. Yeah. Yep. So, all right. Well, that's cool. So what are we going to do
Lots
next?
of tangents today, Paul.
Lots of tangents. Lots of tangents. We are all over the place today. I have
Oh.
a lot of editing to do. There's so much of this I'm going to cut out. So we are going to do, we kind of ruined it last week because you stole my thunder, but we are going to do They Might Be Giants 1990 album Flood.
This album, so I really love Flood. It's such a good album.
It's a great album. It's a great album. I mean, we could review it right now because we both know it so well, but let's not.
Yeah. I got stuff to do, Paul.
Yeah, no, me too, buddy. Me too. Like, I literally walked in the door at 6:30. I was
badgering you in 20 minutes later. Where are you?
I'm looking for chords as you're like, hello. I still got a shit ton of work to get done yet. I'm not done putting in my day for work. So, yeah, let's not. But no, we're going to do They Might Be Giants Flood. We'll talk a little bit about They Might Be Giants and a non-problematic band, thank God.
Yeah.
There are bands that aren't
I
problematic.
have one of my all-time favorite songs. It's not on Flood, but it Kiss Me, Son of God.
Such a good song. Such a good song. God.
When Trump got elected, I listened to that a lot.
I don't blame you. I also
built a little empire out of some crazy garbage.
They also, real quick, and we'll get into it next time. I also really enjoyed their follow-up album, which was Apollo 18. But yeah, we're gonna do Flood, the 1990 album Flood. So other than that, Joe, do you have anything else? Do you want to take us out with? Jesus Christ.
No.
This has been Rate That Album with Paul Muad'Dib and Joe Fremming. Thank you for listening.